Welcome to the Meet at the Creek podcast, and I'm your host, Pastor James Jeffrey. If you have questions or comments, send them to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. That's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Meet at the Creek, sermons, discussions, and real talk. Let's get into it. All right, everybody. Welcome into the Meet at the Creek podcast. I'm your host, Pastor James Jeffrey, here today with another, I call him a friend of mine. He may not consider me a friend, but I think he does. Mr. Mike Ashburn, a city council member for the city of Scottsboro. And we're excited to have Mike on. We're going to be asking some questions and just talking about his background and letting you guys learn a little bit about what he does and what he has done and his experiences and just some of the wisdom and knowledge that he has. It just depends on who you ask about the wisdom.
That's very true.
So these are all things that for those of us who don't know anything about government or local government especially, or what goes on in the community, it's a good opportunity to learn. So Mike, it's good to have you on. I appreciate you being on with me, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the opportunity to come up and visit with you.
Yeah, this was your first time being here on the premises. We got to walk around a little bit, and before we got started, and it's a little bit different in here.
Well, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
From what you tell me, the numbers that you're turning out, a lot of people besides me like it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and it's been a lot of fun. Some of the work almost, I like to tell, sometimes it felt like it was backbreaking, but it's always been worth it. In the end, the things that the Lord's doing here, I haven't seen it done like this, in quite a while. And there's some other places that God's doing great things. I'm not trying to take away from any other church. It's just the way that the Lord has blessed us here, the way we went about it from the very start. It was just 2 or 3 of us here. We had inmates. The county let us have some inmates to help us along on the weekends and some different things. But God really used that, gave us opportunity to minister. A lot of folks on here already saying hello. Sharon, Andrea, Chris, James Sanders, what's up? He said, Doc, I might as well get it out of the way. I earned my doctorate degree. They called me the other day from the seminary, told me that I'd earned it. It only took 6 years combined of Bible college. I had to do it along as I could. I've been working on it off and on since about 2007. So finally got that done. Had enough credits turned in. Was able to get all the material knocked out.
Well, I think you have done an outstanding job being able to do it in that length of time with everything else you got going on.
Well, this
Full-time job plus pastoring a church plus building on a church.
yeah.
It's pretty impressive to me.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't do it by myself. Now I can tell you that I had a lot of help, and a lot of people have chipped in and done some different things to help us get this accomplished. But in the end, the Lord has blessed us richly. I can't begin to thank Him for everything He's done. Not on this side of eternity. On the other side,
You'll get the answers on the other side.
oh yeah, I'll understand all the reasons that things were the way they are. But Mike, just if you don't care, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you came from, how you ended up here, maybe some of the things you've done that'd be significant to what we're going to talk about in a little bit, and so folks kind of understand who you are.
Well, I was born in Scottsboro, Alabama, a lot of years ago, and my family moved to Skyline when I was about 4 years old, and I spent most of my growing up years at Skyline from the time I was 4 years old till about 15 years ago. We moved to Scottsboro. I graduated high school here in Scottsboro, and I went to college 2 years out at Northeast College. I was going to stay out one semester and go back and finish my degree up, and that's been 50 years ago, so it never did get done. I went to work for a local oil company, and I worked for them over 25 years, and I left there and went to work with the county commission. I worked for the revenue office and as an appraiser for about 4.5 years. And after that, I went to work with the emergency management office as a deputy director. And then 2 years later, I was promoted to the director. I stayed there until fall of 2017. I was appointed by Governor Ivey as commission chairman. This is when Matthew Hodges went on to greener pastures and is going to be needing a director to fill out his term, so the governor appointed me to that. So I spent about 13 months in the commission chairman's seat, and I couldn't take a leave of absence. I had to resign from the EMA job. The reason I didn't go back to it, and I wanted to, and the governor said, well, it just wouldn't look good. It's not good politically to do that, so if you want the job, you got to resign. So I did, and I told him at the time that I wouldn't run for that office. If you appoint me, I'll try to fill in and just do the job. Because number one, I didn't know if I could do the job. Number two, I didn't know if I'd like it or not.
Yeah.
So after about 3 months, I got to where I really enjoyed doing it, and had some people within the Republican Party that were pressuring me to try to run, but I just couldn't do it. I'd already made my oath that I wouldn't run for the office. So I in turn run for Scottsboro City Council. And everybody needs to run for public office one time.
No, they don't.
My step counter on my phone, I'd keep up with it on it daily. And then in Scottsboro, you're pretty much required to go door to door, and I walk 35 miles. That don't count the number of miles that I rode a golf cart and drove around in the car. And that was in 2018. I took over in 2018, had to resign from the chairman's job 5 days early because you're not allowed to hold two public offices at the same time. I would have been chairman for 5 days and city council for 5, so I had to leave 5 days early. So I worked for the county commission doing some cleanup on the commission job there for free, and went to work the next week with the city council. And then 2022, last year, I was up for re-election, and I was lucky enough to run unopposed. And at the same time, our council president, Richard Bailey, had to run, and he also run unopposed. So after doing some book work on that, or looking it up, we were the sixth and the seventh person to ever run unopposed in Scottsboro since 1944.
Yeah, both of you do a pretty good job, though. So it's not to tickle your ears, but both of you guys, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a thankless job most of the time. You do get a pat on the back now and then, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about when I said thankless job. When I was the commission chairman, the last chewing out I got was from an older gentleman up in the Bridgeport area. He called and he was mad about his garbage bill. You're very familiar with that kind of call.
I am. I get them pretty regular.
They started putting a processing fee on his credit card he says he wasn't notified of. So I tried to reason with him, told him, it was on his last bill. He didn't want that, and couldn't please him. I said, you need to call them and get it set up where you're paying them with a check. You don't want to be late and have a late fee added to it. I'm not calling them another time.
Yeah.
I said, well, okay. He said, and I can tell you another thing. I'll not be voting for you for this job. And I said, well, sir, I hate that, but I'm not running for this job. He said, good. We don't need a man like you in there anyway.
Yeah.
And hung up. He got the last word in.
I hear it all the time. I have been talked to, and I actually say this a lot of times. I was blown away at the amount of calls that I get, but not all of them are bad. But the ones that I get that are negative, I'll just refer to them as negative. Most of the ugly calls that I get are from elderly women.
Really?
Really. Older women will absolutely verbally assault you. And if they could physically assault you, they might do that.
Well, I know years ago when I lived at Skyline, there was a friend of ours that lived up the street. She got her 2 brand new metal cans. And she was waiting at the picture window when the garbage man came up, because that's when they used to slang them, you know. And so the guys took the lids off the can, threw them in the ditch, and emptied the cans, and then throwed them back. She stepped outside and said, quit throwing them cans. And then she gave them an ugly word to follow it up,
Yeah.
They keep an eye on you.
Yes, they do. We joke about it a lot at the office that, people will call and they'll want to know, they've been sitting at their house waiting for the garbage truck to run. And they want to know why their garbage, it always runs by between 7:32 and 7:35, and they want to know why it hadn't been picked up, or they want to know why it came 2 minutes early. What's wrong? Whose fault is it? Somebody's to blame. Somebody needs to pay the price. I get tickled. I laugh. You just gotta kind of just roll with the punches.
Well, I've got some neighbors that lives across the street from me that came from Texas, and they don't do nothing but brag on the services they get here in Scottsboro.
Yeah, and we get a lot of that too, especially people who move here from other places. They come to a smaller town expecting not to have any services, and we do provide a lot. There's a lot of things we do that people have no idea in the city, that a lot of services come out of budgets and come out of places where we're just trying to make ends meet to provide that service. Right. Rob Peter to pay Paul kind of deal. With the solid waste sanitation side of it, it's much different than people thinks it is. It's much different than I thought it was. I worked in the sanitation office for 6 years and had, well, not in the office, but I drove a truck, and I did residential, and then I did commercial recycling, and I moved to front load container, commercial garbage, and I mean the things that I experienced paled in comparison. I thought, boy, I've seen it all. Yeah. Until I went in the office. Right. And it's the world changed in the office. We had a whole turnover. Everybody left. I came out of a garbage truck and went into the office I thought I had a little bit of a head start.
Easier job.
The only thing I knew were the routes, and that was about it. And I was familiar with who ran what, and I could pass information along real fast. But as far as all the inner workings of sanitation, I had no idea. A few people have chimed in and said to tell you hello, Roger Brandon, Michelle Brandon, Deanne Golden. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like and share if you hadn't already.
All good friends of mine.
Yeah. I couldn't believe you actually had friends, Mike. I was told that I wouldn't have no watchers.
I gave each one of them $100 bills to
Hey.
chime in.
Hey, I'll go chime in if you'll give me a. Oh, goodness. So, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is decision making. And I say it a lot. Don't mean a lot coming from me that people hear my voice all the time. They don't really understand. But, I don't know as much about the county, the commission side, as I know about the city, just because I've been more involved with the city politics, so to speak. But I know a little bit about the county. What's the big difference in the county government versus the city government?
Well, that's a hard question to answer shortly. They're both governmental agencies, but they're run somewhat different. Where the county government, one of the biggest problems that they have is they don't have a good tax base. They collect 3% sales tax, but the county schools get 66%, and city schools gets about 33% of it. So they don't have any money to play with. And they've got 1,100 miles of roads, and they don't have real money that's coming in on a regular basis to resurface the roads. And that is a big deal. When you've got 1,100 miles of roads and you can only pave 20 a year, it's going to catch up with you, and it has.
Yeah.
And the city government in that aspect is easier. We've got a 3% sales tax, and but we operate a lot of things more than the county does. We've got a landfill, we've got recycling, and then we've got a rec-com, and we've got a cemetery, and we fund library, and I'm sure there's some other ones. These are things that the county don't have.
Street department.
They have.
Does the county have a street department?
They don't have a street department per se, but they've got a road department.
Okay.
And so similar, we've got almost same amount of employees. I think they've got 235 and we've got 230. One of the things that's hitting the city and the county at the same time is trying to keep up with wages. Yeah. We're so close to Huntsville, Alabama, that they've kind of set the standard for the wages and gone up real fast. And it's faster than either of the two governments have been able to keep up with it. You have to budget money for that, but to budget the money for the raises, you've got to have that much coming in.
Right.
And I think $1 raise, I forget now, it costs you $250,000 a year if everybody gets $1 or something like that.
And that's not just an initial cost either. I don't think a lot of people understand, how much that costs. It compounds, and it's.
Well, you got to pay tax on it. You got to pay retirement on it, and $1 is up to more than $1,
right,
as an expense.
Yeah, and that's that's one of the things that I had to learn about the hard way, because I used to be one of those people who just griped all the time. But kind of now that I see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
You made mention of that, and I was going to ask you about it, and I'm glad you went ahead and brought it up about Huntsville. It doesn't help us here trying to do things in a town of 15 or 16,000 people in a county with, I don't know how many people's in it now. It used to be 33,000, I think.
It's about 52,000.
Yeah, so I know you knew it went up. It doesn't help us with now the largest city in the state of Alabama, 40 miles that way. The third largest city in the state of Tennessee, 65 miles that way. Right. And the largest city in the state of Tennessee, another 2-hour ride that way. And everybody's coming this direction.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like being in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in the housing market today, but so much property. We're in this little old thing, and everything else is just closing in around us.
It is, and Huntsville's headed this way.
Yeah.
Every year for the past few years, we've had an influx of people. I think there's around 130 extra students that joined the Scottsboro school system last year that came from somewhere else. So you can count on two parents being with that many. That's how many people it went up in 1 year. And as houses are being built, apartments are being built, they're getting filled up by somebody normally from somewhere else. And people have also found how if they live in another state, another town, how much the cost of living is cheaper here. They get more bang for their buck. They can sell their home in California and have a 3 times bigger house in Scottsboro, Alabama.
Right.
And not have much of a tax base. Yeah.
And I tell you something else. I think our numbers would be higher if, I mean, like just for example, down on Goose Pond Island.
Right.
I don't know how many of those folks live elsewhere or claim citizenship. Not everybody, quote unquote, who stays here the majority of the year pays taxes here.
Right.
They still claim they have Montana or California or New York or Pennsylvania, Florida, Louisiana.
With a lot of them, it's a second home.
It is.
They come here to
and they're not part of our census because they do the census where they claim their hometown to be, and that cuts us out of a lot of things.
It does.
It costs us.
With the city of Scottsboro, one of the good things and one of the bad things that we have is a U.S. highway going through it, Highway 72, and we get a lot of people that stop at our eating establishments and stores that's coming off 72, and that's just a pit stop for them, and we get the benefit to reap that sales tax.
Yeah.
And the other day I was at the drive-through at the new burger restaurant here in town, and 3 cars that I could see their tags. 2 of them was 47 county tag, which is Madison County, and the other one was from Tennessee. So they just didn't make Whataburger their destination. They were driving through and stopped there. So we're reaping some benefit with the new establishments on 72 because of that.
Speaking of 72, I know that I heard this morning. I mean, I could see the relief on some people's faces that the red light was working again at County Park. That's been a train wreck. I mean, it's been an absolute disaster, and you guys took a lot of the hits.
Yeah, I got my legs strapped pretty good.
Said disaster, but some people don't understand that. Who's really to blame for some of those things? I have found, and I say this a lot. I probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but I'm gonna say it anyway because, I ain't never been one to shy away from controversy. But if the people who make these choices and decisions, they know you can't say anything. You can't throw them under the bus. They sit silently and let you take all the striping, and they never open their mouth.
Well, when this whole project is done, I think it's going to be better. It's at least that's what I've led to believe, and I believe it will be when all's said and done. And it was a safety grant. AlDOT was wanting to do away with the cross-throughs there, like at McDonald's and in front of Dunham's and so on, because there'd been some bad wrecks there in the past, and they'd seen it in other towns that had something similar to it. And this was to take away where the cars cutting through in front of ongoing traffic.
Right.
And we had to put a little money in the game too, but it's mostly all AlDOT money.
And now I might be wrong, Tham. You correct me because
okay.
I'm subject to be wrong about anything. But sometimes I'm just asking questions that people ask me. When it's all said and done, there's going to be service roads on both sides of the highway.
Yes. Okay. One of these days. It'll take a while before it gets on the side adjacent to Redstone Credit Union. There's a long way to go that way. You take where the Dixie Stampede, not Dixie Stampede, but Cattle Stampede Steakhouse was, just beyond it, there'll be a road from there over to Byron Road. And that we'll be doing that. Well, the bid went out a week ago, and they'll be opening that bid on the 24th. So that'll be in the construction stage before long.
Now, this is not just something that I seen or that I have a question about necessarily, but I see it talked about a lot. the red light there in front of Whataburger.
Yeah.
What do you think that's going to be a bottleneck right there when that thing gets operational?
Well, according to ALDOT, no. They're supposed to be top of the line, in sync traffic lights. They're supposed to know when one is red and the other one is not supposed to be, and they're supposed to be in sync right there. The one thing about that second traffic light, the newest traffic light, when all is said and done, we're going to build a street right there. It goes right beside Whataburger, beside Dunham, and it ties into Sarah Betty behind Dunham.
Okay.
And that way it'll take some of the congestion, we hope, off of County Park. People can take Sarah Betty and go on the new street to the traffic light and avoid the County Park traffic light.
Okay. Is there going to be a subdivision back behind there too? Is that?
Well, there was talk about apartments being over there, but the property owner, I think, has been approached by some retail places that possibly could happen. So that's up in the air right now.
That'd be a nice little addition. Have some more retail places. One of the questions I get all the time is, when are we going to get a steakhouse? I mean,
well, there is one steakhouse chain. I'll leave it unnamed for now, but I do know they've looked at, 3 different locations, and they just can't, they hadn't been able to make the deal with the property owners. And since everything has kind of started building on 72, it's made that property very expensive.
Right.
And, but I do know they were in negotiations 3 different times and it fell through. So we're hoping right away. And that's one of the biggest things that I hear.
Yeah.
The first time that I ran, there was 3 things that I remember people wanting. And one of them was Chick-fil-A. We hope that to be done next month.
They're close.
Oh, yeah. The second thing was to not put a truck route on Porter Road and Woods Cove Road. They did. The people down there didn't want it at all. And the third thing was road paving. So we're trying to get all that done.
The road paving. Oof. Now you talking about an election killer. Boy, that'll get you unelected in a hurry. I've been amazed in my time being affiliated with the city, but how people just beat one another up over that road paving. But when you get in, I remember I had to do the timing for the debates at the last election.
Right.
And I'll never forget something that Robin said during the debate. He said, paving roads ain't as easy as going to Walmart and buying, asphalt and throwing it on the road. That ain't how it goes. I'll be honest with you, that kind of struck me the wrong way to start with. So I started asking questions, and I found out during the process of that there's only 2 or 3 companies in the whole North Alabama that are even eligible to bid on those jobs, and you just kind of got to get in line.
When you put out something for bid, you usually get 2 or 3 bids. That's all you get. You mail it out to more, but that's all the bids you get back. And road paving is not cheap by any means. The first year that I was on the council, we paved Parks Avenue and put a new bridge in. And Parks Avenue was one of the major thoroughfares in Scottsboro. There's about 4,000 cars a day, Monday through Friday. It drops to 1,000 cars a day on the weekend. And, of course, that's been 4 years ago or so. My memory fades a little bit, but I think when all was said and done, that was $600,000.
Woo!
And, but in the last 2.5 years, 2 years, we've made some improvement on paving. We was able to get Garland Ferry Road and Kyle Street, College Avenue, Bob Jones from Win to Win, Anderson Road, Anderson Street, and Bynum Road, and all of that together, excluding that one on Parks Avenue, it's close to $1.5 million. And with everything that we're doing this year, last year, we did the County Park Road in Roseberry, and I believe that was 600,000 or 700,000.
Wow.
And then we're having to do all that at Michael Way and change the traffic lights and things for the new retail stores that's going in over there. And we had to do it for the Publix supermarket. We got some grant money for part of that. And we're going into a paving project pretty soon on Crawford Road. We was lucky enough to get a grant for $250,000 of it, but we'll still be out $250 more.
Yeah, and I know, they're doing a lot of construction over there. If you live in Scottsboro and you hadn't been down Crawford Road in a while, man, alive. I the very first house after I got married in 1997, my wife and I rented that little house that's right behind the high school on Crawford Road there, and now there's a development going in there behind it.
Oh yeah,
and those things, God, I mean, they went up. I think Five Construction is the people that build them.
Right.
But man, they went up in a flash. I mean, they're nearly done. They're over there doing landscaping and stuff already, and man, they're just big old nice townhome style houses. It's a nice place, man. I was blown away. The Lamberts and the Bennetts, they got that development going on out there on the other side on George Adams, and down on the island there's a lot of progress. I don't think people really understand exactly the scope, the scale that things are happening.
Oh yeah.
In the city.
Well, it's scattered everywhere. There's houses going up on Porter Road in my neighborhood. I live in an old section of town, and there's 4 new houses over there. And it's like whenever they get an available lot, they're building on it.
Yeah. Woods Cove Road. I remember when you could walk around Woods Cove and you'd walk 4 or 5 minutes before you get to one driveway to the next. And now you can't take 10, 15 steps and you're at the next one. And they're just crammed in there now. That used to be country living over in there.
Yeah.
It's full blown city living
exactly
in there now. And my goodness, I'm floored. We drove around the other day, and I had to go out on the island and check on some stuff. And Stacy and I drove out through there, and it was just nonstop, just boom, 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 boom. And there's houses every few driveways. There's a new house going.
Right. The only thing about progress will generate you some more money, but it will generate you some more expense too.
Yeah.
If Scottsboro develops a lot bigger, you get talking about more police officers and more fire departments and stuff like that, plus the taxing on the waste department, solid waste. And, it comes down to budgeting money. That's one of the hardest parts. And the next 2 weeks that's what we're going to be doing almost every night through the week, and that's budget hearings. Each department head will come and basically show us their needs, their income, and what their wants is. And if we've got any money at the end of it, we might can go to the want list.
Yeah.
But we've been very fortunate that just about every year in Scottsboro that I've been on the council, we've exceeded our estimate on sales tax.
Yeah.
And that helps us buy the extra things that we need. Like at the solid waste department,
right.
A lot of new trucks sitting up there didn't used to be. A lot of equipment. Had to redo a lot of the recycling facility, and we had a lot of trucks when I first came on there, and this is with the agreement of the rest of the council too. A lot of them were staying in the shop when they were staying on the road.
All of them. I drove them.
Like an old guy told me one time, he said, you can't run a sawmill with a pocket knife. You need something to work with. So
right.
we started slowly increasing the fleet with newer vehicles. And then some of them we got on a lease program, and even something as small as the lawnmowers that we have. We started leasing those because they were staying in the shop a lot. We lease them more now, and we call the company.
Sorry about that. I got somebody who wants to join the show right here. Hello.
Are you on?
Yeah, we're on live. You got a question?
I'm just listening. I don't have questions.
How many times, Mr. Ashburn, have you heard the solid waste director say, "I ain't got nothing to say"?
Not very many. Usually he's wanting money of some kind or something. And, he'll come before us. We tease one another quite a bit. He'll come before the council every week, and this is just the most important thing that's ever happened. They didn't want us to do this last week. We've got to have this right now.
We were just talking about you today, Mike. Stacy and he said he had a question, and his question for you, I'm going to ask it while he's here.
Okay.
If I get it wrong, he can correct me. But I believe it went a little something like this. Now you're about to enter the 5-year anniversary of the greatest hire that the city of Scottsboro has ever made. How do you feel about that?
I don't know how he knew that my 5 years was going to be at the end of October.
That's good stuff.
I'm glad you called, Stacy, because we were just sitting here talking about some of the expenses that the city and even the county incurs with growth. And
right.
Mike talked about, with growth comes there's the revenue part of it. You're going to make a little more money, but there also comes other expenses. I was going to bring up, like, for example, the mobile home community out off of Edmonds Drive. I mean, I think by the time that thing's through, we count clicks with the garbage trucks. Every time the arm moves, it clicks as a counter on it. And when they're done, that one mobile home park, when it's all full, will be the equivalent of one complete route that our trucks run now.
Really?
Just that one mobile home park.
Yeah.
It'll take one truck in there about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Going just when it's all said and done and complete. So that one, basically, Gant Road will be an entire garbage route all by itself.
In talking about the garbage, Stacy can chime in on this if he wants to. One of the biggest expenses that we've got is that landfill that we operate.
Yeah.
And it's getting bigger and bigger, the expense part is.
Yeah.
I talked to a man when I went to conference back a couple of months ago in Birmingham, and he was from a town in South Alabama, and I can't remember his town or his name because I've got his card there at the house. But I said, "Are y'all in the landfill business?" He said, "No, sir. Our city got out of that 30 years ago, and I'm glad." And I said, "Well, how much do your residents have to pay for their garbage?" He said, $26 a month. And right now we're sitting on 16, and they're charging $26 and having somebody either come get it or they got to carry it to their landfill.
Right.
And it's just it's millions of dollars to build a new cell, and the equipment it takes to operate a landfill. Stacy, if we bought 2 new bulldozers up there right now, how much would we be talking about? $1.5 million?
So you're talking right at $700,000 each.
Yeah.
So almost would be 1.4 million.
Yeah.
$1.4 million.
And I think an excavator now costs somewhere around 1.1, 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Or is it track hoe? I don't remember.
It's a compactor. Compactor
that was it.
Right.
That.
And
track hoe, the big ones that we have to use, still $350,000. It's amazing the expense in those things, but the city is very fortunate to have a landfill, or our citizens would be paying $26 or even more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because where our location is, the logistics to get it somewhere else would cost us even more than that. So the city's felt fortunate.
The first year that I was on council, we traveled to a couple of different places that were doing recycling. One of them was up in Cookeville, Tennessee, I believe is the name of it. And the other one was in Gunnersville. Now, the one in Gunnersville, They try everything they can. They try to recycle everything. That place was running over with those trailers trying to recycle. And then talking with the gentleman over there, the reason being, they don't have a landfill, and they have to pay $44 a ton to get their garbage picked up.
Man.
And it don't take long to get a ton of garbage.
And it don't just benefit the citizens of Scottsboro either. We give the county benefits from us operating the landfill, because we coordinate with them and work with the county, and to keep those prices lower too for all of the residents of the county. I know a lot of people think the city don't help the county at all, but those garbage bills would be outrageous.
Oh, it would.
Yeah, if it
Well,
weren't.
you take, for instance, and you may know the numbers more than I do. When I came on the council is when the company that was picking up our recycles quit accepting it.
Yeah.
Everybody used to put all their recycles in one bag, and they'd bale it, and this company would come get it, pay you a little money for it even. They just quit taking it.
Yeah.
And our landfill was about full, and about 25 tractor-trailer loads of that garbage had to go to Madison County, I believe. Morgan County. And because our landfill was too full before we could get the new one opened up.
Yeah. It was, I remember that because I did the recycling. It was Stacy, if I'm wrong, you may know better than me, but I believe it was 2013 when China put up what they call the green wall.
2013, you said?
Yeah, I think it was 2013, 2014, around that area. And China put up the green wall where they stopped it. They were the number one importer of recycled goods, and they stopped taking it because, well, what they were getting from the Western, cultures were just laced with trash and raw garbage, and they, just to be honest with you, they got tired of it.
Right.
And so they just stopped accepting it, and America had to, shift gears.
Right.
And one of the challenges we faced when Stacy and I both came into the office, he got hired a couple of months after I did, after I got moved into the office. We had no program. The program had been shut down for close to a year.
Yeah.
We still did cardboard, but that was all we were picking up because that was the only thing we could, make any kind of, which you don't make your money back on it, but
any revenue.
Yeah, it was just any revenue, and it kept that out of the landfill at least. But and props to Stacy for this. He sat down, and we spent a lot of hours knocking our heads together how we used to do the program, and there was a lot of talk about cans, and but that would have required more trucks and more drivers, and so we went with and I'll tell you how it happened. I believe the conversation went a little something like this. Once upon a time when I was doing that, my truck broke down, and I had to drive a pickup truck with a pull-behind trailer. And it was so much more efficient out on the routes picking that stuff up that way.
Right.
Versus actually running a full-size rear load or side load garbage truck to do recycling. So, instead of having two operator twos or three operator twos, we were able to get it by with two laborers. And then, then the other recycle company that was in business against the city, he closed, and we had to absorb all that business. And I think we only added two people. Is that right, Stacy?
Yeah, I think so. We added two.
We had 2 employees and absorbed a whole business.
Now
we'd added more, but I don't think Mr. Ashburn wouldn't let us have them. I wanted more, but I didn't get it.
In the recycling, we beg people to recycle all the time, but I won't miss this by very many percentage points, but only about 3 out of 10 households recycle.
It's about 33% nationwide.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand, they think everything's recyclable because it's been pushed so hard, but some things are very difficult to recycle.
Oh, yeah.
Glass, styrofoam. One of the biggest things that everybody thinks recyclable that's not recyclable at all is those little Walmart sacks, we call them.
Yeah.
The little paper thin, plastic bags. Those things are terrible. But everybody thinks, well, it's plastic, it's recyclable, but it's not.
Glass is something that Stacy, was that up in Cookeville, Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Where they recycle glass. They had a crusher.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
if you wanted a blue glass to put around your flower beds or something, they could get that for you, or they would crush it up fine and put it on the roads and stuff like that. And that's the only place I've seen where they were doing any glass recycling.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
I've got on the internet and looked and say, well, if we started picking up glass, where could we get rid of it? And I've looked at Chattanooga, Atlanta, everywhere, and you can't find anybody to take it.
Yeah. I think, about the only people now who accept it are people, they use it in roads.
Yeah.
You hear that when you're driving up and down these newly paved roads, you hear that, when you're driving, it sounds like it's singing to you. It's that glass in there that's causing that noise.
Yeah.
That's mixed in the roads, and man, it's an amazing thing. Stacy even looked into trying to figure out a way to do something different with the plastics, and it's just too expensive. We can't afford to do it. But you were saying something. I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday morning, Stacy, where you're talking about a company that actually made bricks or construction material out of plastic, like recycled.
Yeah, they're
plastic.
making blocks, but it's a mold, and it's just so expensive to get into. You'd have to have a joint effort for more than just our municipality to do something like that. But that's where it's going, and hopefully, in the future we'll be able to join others and be able to provide that. It took us 5 years. I want you to know this, and everybody out there needs to know this. This first year we've ever even returned a profit per se, not really a profit, returned any revenue on plastic. We never got to sell any till, just here of late. We just never had an out for it, but we finally found one.
I thought I was going to turn a cartwheel. We got that first $300 check for, I think, 9 or 10 tons of plastic.
Well, it takes a lot of plastic to make a ton.
It does. It
takes
a lot.
A bunch.
It takes a lot.
It's a bunch.
Go ahead, Stacey.
Go ahead. No, sir, you go ahead.
I was going to say that some people don't know about recycling, especially in the city of Scottsboro. It's a program that's funded out of the budget of the solid waste. So
that's right.
it's free to the people, but it costs.
Right.
It costs to operate that program, and it's not a great big revenue producer, but thanks to some ingenious thinking and a lot of time spent devising a plan and a lot of hard work and effort, I've been around. We go to the SWANA conferences, and I talk to the different recycle people. We got one of the better recycling programs in the whole state of Alabama.
Well, one thing about the recycling is the end cost that nobody sees. It stays out of the landfill.
Right.
If you see a tractor trailer go out of the baler up there with a load of cardboard, excuse me, that whole load of cardboard's not going into our landfill.
Exactly.
And I think that last landfill exceeded $3 million.
Actually, this one was it 4.1?
Yeah, we were
right.
we were about 4.6 when it was all done. But now, we added some things. We had to add that leachate tank and things like that. It wasn't just the cell itself. Those are just some requirements that changed. And folks, it's good for folks to know that too, Mike. That things change.
Well,
every time you open a hole, it costs us more money.
It's like in the beginning, the engineers told us that this new landfill cell, with the amount of garbage that you're collecting, should last you 12 years. So we went out on a bond, borrowed the money to build a new cell. And I'm afraid it's going to be way over full by the time we get that bond paid. We're going to have another one before we get that one paid off.
When we started researching it and kind of running numbers and turning things in, I was always under the impression that we accepted somewhere around 90 tons a day, and we're averaging over 200 tons a day that we take in. And when I first went into the office, we had personnel 490 tons a day
Yeah.
out there. So you had guys pulling at that time about 180 tons a day. They were doing,
Right.
they should have had double the technically.
But you take your recycling, and we've had 600-ton days.
Yeah.
As of late, you take everything into account, and it's really amazing. The numbers and how much is generated. These special events that we're having. Of course, this, Mike, we're having more and more of them. And when you do that, of course, that's garbage that you didn't count on. That's not a household garbage bin. And anytime we have those things, that plays into effect on how many tons you take in.
Right. That sale,
it's amazing.
That sale, they told us that it was going to last 12 years. Well, we'll be lucky if it lasts 6.
Yeah.
7.
We'll be lucky. At the end, remember, they came back and said, we calculated, and it's not going to last hardly that long. I think they did say 6.
Yeah.
But if we'll keep recycling and keep it out there and, things like that, maybe we can
stretch it out
maybe
longer.
we can stretch it out.
So
we'll see how it goes.
And Stacy's very familiar. We were talking a few minutes ago about the lease program with our vehicles and our equipment.
Sure.
That's something that he brought a lot of knowledge that he brought with him over, and he's helped almost every department in the city.
Right.
Because
he'll give me this credit. I was the one that drug my feet on that. I had to be proven. He was driving a truck, and he wanted to put a fleet of pickups out there that we could resell because we'd buy them so cheap off the bid list. I said, that's not where I came from. Used to, if you bought a vehicle for a business, you drove it until you drove the wheels off of it.
Yeah.
And then you got another one.
Yeah.
Well, he bought one. Council agreed to go ahead and do it that way. And then after 1 year or 2 years, put it up for sale and made $10,000.
Yep.
I said, okay, I've changed my mind. We got several now, and they're coming and going all the time. And every time we sell one, we'll make anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000.
Yep. And those are things, that he passes, and I give Stacy credit for this. He does pass this along to the employees, and we hear about it pretty regular. They sign a contract, we'll, in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, whatever it's depending on what it is, we're going to come back. We'll give you X amount for this if you can keep it in this condition. You got to take care of it. You got to keep it clean. You got to keep it greased. You got to wash it. You can't, it can't be all rusted out. If not, that's coming off the price. So that's something we have to really stay on top of.
Well, having a newer fleet has took the pressure off of our maintenance department. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We used to have vehicles sitting out there all the time, and you'd have to wait a week or 2 on them because they were so backed up. And now you take the pickup program where we do the buyback. You don't ever have to do anything to them. Change the oil in them.
Right.
You don't keep them long enough to put new tires on them.
Yeah.
And we've got it sold and made some money on, got another new one, starting over.
Yeah.
Right.
And those are, I can't, I'm honest with you, Mike. I was on the side you were on. He first started talking about it. I was like, man, it sounds good, but I just can't hardly,
I've had some people, some other entities when we first started doing that. Said, why are y'all doing it? Y'all are wasting that money. Buying these new vehicles like that. Under the old way of doing things, you were. Yeah. But if you can buy a vehicle and drive it for a year and turn around and sell it and make $3,000 to $10,000 on it, I don't see nothing wrong with it.
If you even break even on it, I mean, you're still making money because you're not putting in your equipment, your maintenance expenses. You're not having to buy parts. You're not having to replace engines and transmissions
and your downtime.
Exactly.
It's like I was saying about the lawnmowers that we leased a while ago. If the lawnmower went down, they got behind because grass don't stop growing.
No, it don't.
And, they would get behind. Now, by leasing a mower, if one tears up, we call the company and they come get the old one, bring us a new one, and till ours is repaired.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I got a question for both you guys. And I know this is I don't want to say anything out of the way. I'm trying to think of a good way to word this.
Well, any question that you ask me, I'm on a cell phone. The call may drop, but go ahead.
Stacy also used to be on the county commission,
Yeah.
and you mentioned early in the broadcast about, or the program about, how the difficulty that the county has generating money. They don't have any way to make the money, and people think they do, but they really don't. What would be, and I don't care who answers first, because you both may have different opinions, but what would be the solution?
To me, the only real solution, ongoing solution, is if they had a better tax base. 1 cent sales tax would go a long way paving roads. But, that is only going to happen by the vote of the public. And several years ago, they put that to the public to see if they wanted it. And it got beat. It got beat 40-60.
That's right.
What do you
Well, people are not interested in more taxes. If they have to have a better understanding. And we didn't do a good job, evidently, of explaining it, but Mike is absolutely correct. Unless you share in growth, sales tax is the only growth revenue that you have. If you don't have any of it, as you grow, you're getting further behind. That's the only way you can grow with it is through a sales tax, and we just don't have it.
Like the city of Scottsboro's got a good tax base.
Right.
We don't have too much. I think we're just on the right track. And see, we have been able to utilize some of that tax with a 772 program, which allows us to give developers money to bring stuff in, like the shops of Scottsboro, the Publix, and all of those things. We share in the sales tax they bring in until a certain number is hit, and then we get to keep it all. And that'll be from now on.
Right.
And some other places have had that over time. And I've had people kind of chastise me, said, why are we putting tax money in on private? Well, that's just the way the business world works in Alabama now. If you don't do it, they'll go somewhere that does.
Right. I've had this conversation with a few people. I've always been kind of envious. I voted for Tommy Battle when he ran for mayor because I always thought he was just a good businessman. He knew how to attract business. He knew how to, bring business to you. And he knows the biggest thing about him is he's got people in place to help get things accomplished.
Right.
Do you think there'll ever come a time that Scottsboro will have like a city manager?
I don't see it in the near future. I really don't. Scottsboro City is blessed to have some good directors of their departments, and the directors run their department and all do an outstanding job, I think, and I think that's a key.
In saying that, I want to ask this second question. In Huntsville, and I'm just using them for an example because it's the biggest city that's the closest to us. Their solid waste authority is, I don't want to say it's ran different because they're all ran. Every solid waste department in this whole state is ran different. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people are way different. But in Huntsville, they utilize their solid waste authority differently than most other places do.
Yeah.
And maybe people don't know this, but the solid waste authority is a little bit different because it's kind of like anything else. It can't stop. There's no, and probably Stacy's probably said this to y'all before, but there's no federal mandates on police and fire and ambulance. There's no federal law that says you have to have a police or you have to have a fire department or you have to have ambulance service, but there is a federal law about sanitation.
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of like the postal service. There used to be, at once upon a time, they were the only people who could legally get away with running stop signs. But that goes back to the old Wild West, where they couldn't be stopped, and it was a federal offense to slow one of them down. But of course, nobody enforced it in the modern era. But solid waste is one of those things where you can't afford really to have downtime. If you have downtime in solid waste, and this is something I learned at some of the conferences we went to, like out in California where they have tent cities. You know, the people are not, they're not, the deal was when they started them that they would clean up their stuff during the day, move so that the city could keep that area sanitized and clean. And then they didn't do it. They refused to get up and move their stuff. And so they couldn't get it properly cleaned. And then they basically had a relapse of the plague.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, along that line, in the United States, I think this is part of the reason why life expectancy has gone up. You compare what life expectancy was in the 50s when you didn't have as many rules, and toxic material was everywhere, and garbage was just everywhere, buried in the backyard or burned or whatever.
Yeah.
And this, I think, the proper disposal of garbage is part of the key to good health.
Yeah, and Stacy mentioned there a few minutes ago about the leachate. That's something I never had any idea about until the first time that I had to go to the landfill and clean out a trap on a garbage truck, and I flipped that lid open and that juice, you know, splattered me across the face. Immediately, I became concerned about liquid.
Yes, sir.
You know, and the stuff that's in that garbage, because it is absolutely
It's toxic
deadly.
to the human body.
You know, it'll eat your skin off. It'll discolor you. It's it has to be handled properly, and
that's why these landfills are clay lined, where not even the water can get away.
Right.
Most people are not aware of it, but how the landfill that we operate, you have to pump water out of it every day and carry it to be properly disposed in the sewer system.
And for the last 7 years, we've had 4 of the top 20 rain years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So our leachate, nobody likes to talk about paying overtime and things like that, but those issues that we have, that they generate things like having to have somebody down there on the weekends to pump it and try to get rid of it, and it's just it's a vicious cycle. Sometimes.
Do you have somebody that's their job every day?
We
do have some, and we generally try to keep one person, the same person on it.
Yeah.
Because they stay familiar with it. But we also try to rotate them out so that other people can be familiar in emergency situation, things like that.
I won't tell y'all this really quick it's on the same subject, but the landfill, we had talked, I think, Mike, you and I did, but I know the mayor did. We're going to try to open that landfill for a few tours, get people that want to see it, kind of know the operation a little bit of it. I think that'll increase some of our recycling. The more people we come in and show them what it takes to do away with this garbage, it should increase our recycling efforts. When we get to that point, and we're trying to get to there where we can show those folks, anybody that's interested, how this thing works. And, that's another thing we're working on that a lot of people don't know that we're doing, but I'm trying to get that situated where we can do that.
Well, if you go up to the landfill, and a lot of it I was ignorant of. I didn't have a clue how the operation of it was. Thought it was, but I wasn't. When you go up there and see that big bulldozer turning that stuff up and compact it, you look at a lot of it and say, man, that could be recycled, a lot of that stuff that they're running over.
Yeah.
But once it goes in there, people think it's as easy as just pulling it out, but we can't touch it once it's in there. Really and truly, once it goes in the, and I might be wrong about this, and Stacy can correct me if I am, but I believe there's a law against dumpster diving and picking up stuff that's put out on the side of the road even. I mean,
well, there is, but they don't really enforce any of that. But, if it gets in a truck and it comes across the scales, what it says, it's not supposed to leave the permitted facility.
Man.
Things we pull out, like C&Ds, not MSW, which isn't garbage, household garbage. Anything we pull out, that's when we have to use it just there. You can't just take it with you and can't leave.
Right.
Has to stay. So there's a lot of rules that go along with it too that that people don't know, and you wouldn't want to know. It's not what you do every day, but I want them to know how it operates and how it works, and get them accustomed to not bringing this stuff to us.
you have to warn them before you give them a tour about those shots that rings out every so often.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You got your animal control officers. They thought somebody was shooting at them.
They got this device up there every so often. It sounds like a gun shot. That's to scare the birds off.
It is. It is
He didn't warn me
scavenger
about
birds.
it until it was too late.
One more question about the landfill. For you.
Sure.
How long? And I know there's I believe it's 30 years. I might be wrong, but if the landfill were to quote unquote close
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, how long do you have to keep people on site?
You're obligated to keep people there and operate and maintain the landfill for 30 years once it ceases to be a landfill.
That's a long time.
Well, landfill starts as a big hole, and when it's time to close it, it's a big mountain.
Right. With grass growing on it.
Yeah.
Somehow.
and methane wells sticking out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what do you think, Mike, in the future? I mean, what do you see? How do you see the sanitation business industry going?
Well, I think this is something that Stacy has done a lot of research on, and it would be an incinerator. If you can burn that stuff and turn it into, just say, electric power, and all you're having to dispose of is the ash. And
Yes.
it goes through the scrubber, and all the fumes that comes out of it is scrubbed, and it's clean when it comes out in the air. I think that's what
That's right.
I think it's going to come to that, because it's going to get where you can't afford to operate a landfill.
If not, you're going to, or either that, or we're going to get ruled completely out of it.
Well,
the rules are changing. Seems like by the day.
Or we'll have to go up so much on the rates, and that's what we don't want to do. We'd like to keep the rates where they're at, but expense dictates it sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Stacey?
I think our future's bright, and we've got some opportunities to do a few things. So, we've got a council that's willing to listen and try to make good decisions. So I think our future's bright as far as our city goes, of which way we can go with it.
But if we have to have a sale in 6 years, we're physically stable enough where we can build another. I didn't mean that, it was going to be, yes, that one is going to be full, but we'll build another.
Oh, yeah, we've got the room.
We've got plenty of land now.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of room, plenty of land. It's just a matter if we want to put our money in the ground or, go a different avenue. So that's all it is a choice which way we want to go.
Well, Stacy said the key word there. How much money do we got?
How much money do we have?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't bring the figures with me, but in our sales tax account, and this is probably as of a couple of months ago, that's the latest financial statements that I got, we had around $13 million. That's in the sales tax account. Now, see, we've got gas tax account, and we've got TVA in lieu of tax money. We've got ad valorem tax money that's in all of them in separate accounts. I can't keep up with how much all those are. Plus, we've got business license revenue, and of course the revenue that comes from solid waste and from the residential garbage pickup. So, but that $12 million, that's just in sales tax.
Sure.
And this year we probably going to, in our sales tax, we're probably going to be $1 million over budget, and that's good.
That's great.
That's real good.
That's great.
It's a chance to replace some stuff that needs replacing.
That's a wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Because if you buy a police car or something, it's got to be replaced. Just because you buy it don't mean it's going to last 10 years.
Right.
We're on a schedule now. Before I came in, the council had to buy like 10 cars at one time, and that was a lot of money. I think it had to go on a bond, but I'm not sure. But we're on a schedule now where we buy 2 a year, no matter what, because you're going to have them.
Right.
And it's just the way it goes. Now, our fire department, they're funded by the county fire tax. They do a lot of improvements with that money, and that kind of floats them around without having to get heavy in the general fund other than operating expense.
I've always been a guy who I was raised up by older people and people who came through the Depression and things like that, and they didn't. They were like John Dutton. They were the opposite of progress, in some ways. But a guy told me recently, that the way things are changing, the speed that they're changing at. He said, it's one of two things. You're either going to change or you're going to wish you had.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get left behind. And I think a lot of people now, especially with the younger generation that's coming up, we understand. I'm 47, and my generation now understands that if we don't fix it, not only are our children going to be in ruin, our grandchildren are going to be in financial ruin. There's just going to be no way out. They're going to have to leave here,
right,
in order to make a living. And
well, in city government, you got to keep up. You got to keep your equipment up, and you don't spend your money unwisely by any means. But if you don't keep up, it'll all hit you at one time.
Right.
Then what if you don't have the money to pay it back? And you got to be a good steward of the citizens' money, and that's what it is. It's everybody in Scottsboro's money. We get the opportunity to collect 3% sales tax from people that come through, like on 72, and people that live in other places. Every bit of sales tax money that we have is not paid by citizens of Scottsboro. Everybody that comes from Sand Mountain, Stevenson, Hollywood, all the adjoining towns that come into Scottsboro buy stuff, and we get to keep that sales tax.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That allows us to do some good things.
I want to change gears just a second, Mike, because we're about to run out of time. But do you, Pudge wants to know if there's enough time for more call-in questions.
It was anybody but him.
How easy is it? I mean, how well do you work with the other council people? I mean, is it when the doors are closed? I mean, I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
When the doors are closed, and do you guys have to sometimes hash it out, or is it generally?
Well, we're saying to one another, if you want to put it that way. We do have differences of opinion. We're not going to publicly come out and fight about it. Everybody's got the opportunity to vote yes or vote no when the time comes to a vote.
Right.
But we discuss some things, and I've been proven to be wrong at times, and I have proved to some other thing with some of the other council that I may be right sometimes. And, it comes to a happy medium. But the current council, I can't say anything bad about. We all get along well. We try. I think everybody's on the same page to do what's right. And, we're not doing it for the money because you don't make much.
Right.
If I was going to do it, if I was looking at it for the money, I'd go out and get me a job.
Yeah.
I'd make a whole lot more money.
Well, I talked to Miss Debbie earlier, and she said there ain't no danger of that happening.
you got to watch him conniving women.
She didn't say that, Mike. I'm just kidding. She's probably watching. I don't want to get in trouble.
I've teased her a number of years about this. In every relationship, there's a saver and a spender.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a saver, and Debbie's a spender. And I said, I told somebody at church one day, I said, Jesus saves, but Debbie withdraws.
Yeah. I hope my wife heard that. Mike said it, sweetheart, not me. Mike said it. Oh goodness! Well, you brought up another thing, and being as we're running short on time, I wanted to hit on it. In Jackson County, we're still blessed to have, a faith, based community for the most part. A lot of things, obviously, I mean, we're here, and we're doing this from our church, but a lot of people, if you go outside of our area into some of these bigger places in the South, there's churches everywhere, but in Jackson County, I talked to a guy the other day. Well, Robbie Copenhaver, he was here, and he told us about the Christmas charities.
Yeah.
He said if it weren't for the churches in Jackson County, they wouldn't be able to take care of all of the people that get approved for the Christmas charities. And for the last year or so, they've been able to help pretty much everybody. how important is it, do you think? We still pray at our council meetings and say the Pledge of Allegiance, things like that. How important is it this that faith stay a part of who we are?
Well, I think it's everything. I'm a believer, and I believe you're supposed to do what he tells you to. And I think in a council meeting or a commission meeting, prayer should be first. It's the rules to go by. If you follow his rules, you're not going to mess up.
Absolutely.
I was talking to a friend of mine out on Sand Mountain, and I was telling him about a mission trip that was coming up in Maine. And this was a couple of years ago. And he looked at me and he said, well, how come Maine, of all the places? I said, well, from my understanding is there's only 25 Baptist churches in the whole state of Maine. He looked at me funny and he said, there's 25 Baptist churches on Highway 71 on Sand Mountain. And I think it's good.
Yeah.
We're going in the right direction, and you are here, and we all need to keep focus on that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm very thankful that we still have, and I know the church takes a lot of hits. Every time a alcohol law or something like it, gets beat, or you hear at the churches, this church that. But one of the like the lottery, for example,
right.
I was having a conversation with somebody just the other day about it, and I said, if the lottery had been written. If that would have been written differently, the church couldn't have beat it, because there's more unchurched people in the state of Alabama now than there are church people. And if all of the voters would have turned out and voted yes, but the reality was that it just wasn't written up right. And if it had, going all the way back to Siegelman when it was run the first time, if it had been proposed correctly, probably would have passed already.
Yeah.
Anytime something happens around here. I hear about it. Well, we need to tax y'all. Well, everybody that donates to the church pays taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
All that money's already taxed. And I don't know about everybody else, but we don't use our money to go fight legal battles and
it's not
buy signs.
It's not a profit-making enterprise that you're in.
No, it's not.
You're here as a servant,
right?
And that's what the money goes toward.
And do you think that in a lot of ways, public service, public office is much like I do. I think, Stacy and I talk about it quite a bit, and he, I draw a lot of, I want to use the word wisdom, but it's just a lot of knowledge from his experience.
Yeah.
And I love to talk to people that are in leadership positions and, kind of get their take on that, because it seems to me, this is our theme here, making much of Jesus.
Yeah. Making
less of yourself and more of him. It's about doing what's right for everybody to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Is that something that you find getting harder and harder to do? Or?
I don't say that it's harder and harder to do. I think if people that are in leadership positions are trying hard, it's around here. You mentioned Don Siegelman.
Yeah.
Look what happened to him.
Yeah.
He was in the penitentiary for a long time for his wrongdoings. He'll come back to get you. You just try to do the right thing. And when you make decisions, sometimes you may make the wrong decision. In politics, with the best of your ability, you may make the wrong decision. Just try to fix it.
Right.
If you get a problem with somebody on the phone, you just try to fix it. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, Stacy, do you have anything to add?
No, but I enjoyed listening to that last segment. I will tell you this: bad decisions are made by people unintentionally because of bad information. We may have the wrong information based it on things like that. You see it all the time. Sometimes you have to back up front and say, I made a mistake and change it. I have to do that regularly myself. So. But you just make the decisions based on the information you get.
That's true. That's true. And social media is a good thing and a bad thing.
It is.
Sometimes you get roasted pretty hard about a decision that you make when it turns out maybe that person don't even live around you.
Right.
They're finding an agenda to get on and get on the soapbox and wear us out, and it's really don't concern them.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Well, thank y'all. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate you,
Take care.
boss.
Bye-bye.
You know, talking about politics, several years ago, I was talking to this older gentleman, and I said, I'm thinking about getting in politics a little bit. He looked at me and said, let me give you one piece of advice. I said, okay, I'll take it. He said, smile a lot and don't say much.
There you go.
So that's a pretty true statement right there.
Yes, it is.
You won't get in trouble.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, Stacy said something just a second ago. I don't know if you could hear what he said, but he said a lot of the bad decisions that people make, especially in politics and even sometimes in other areas of life, are made because of bad information.
Yeah.
You know, if you get bad information, and you think you got good information, you're gonna make a bad choice because you don't know it's bad information. I have been, even in the ministry, I've been on, you know, I know a lot of people don't see it this way, and I'm not going to tell anybody's business, but it's kind of like having, you're trying to do marriage counseling, and you got two spouses at war, you know, with each other, and each of them comes in, and all they tell you is the bad side of the other. And then the other comes in, and they just tell you the bad side of the one you just talked to, and all you hear from either one of them is the negative. And sometimes I just like to say, you know what, before you say anything negative, I want you to tell me 10, 15 good things about who you're about to talk to me about, because this is something I've figured out just in what we do. If we can figure out on the things we agree on and focus a little more on the things that we do agree on so we can work toward a common goal, generally somewhere in that we can agree to disagree. Yeah. And, you know, put our feelings aside and try to make the best decision for the whole group. And my wife made a comment about your wife's comment, and she said, I save mine and withdraw from yours.
Oh, man.
And Pudge decided he wasn't going to do that to you tonight. He said
I'm glad. His time's coming, you know.
It is. He told
me, he asked you why he was so far down the list, and he said you told him you were saving the best for last.
Is that what I told him? Well, and I ain't going to say that I didn't say that. I don't remember saying that, but I ain't going to say that I didn't say that. I'll be honest with you, when I started sending out requests, because when I started this, the podcast came at the request of my daughter.
Yeah.
And it initially was just me doing some sermons and snippets and, you know, things like that. And then one night I was just sitting around the house, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna go live tonight. I just chatted with people, and that went on 3 or 4 weeks, and then I started taking calls. Yeah. And man, it was so good. It really was so good, and I thought, you know, it'd be a good thing to set up and bring people in and actually, you know, of course, now when it gets basketball season, this is going to slow down for me a little bit because of my obligation with the public address for basketball. But, you know, I started my first live with an in-house guest was Joe Hollis. Yeah. The head coach of North Jackson. I've had football coaches, basketball coaches, politicians, and business owners, and you know, everybody that's come on has had a unique perspective. Everybody's done it a little bit differently, and they've all been pretty good at it. And maybe they weren't always good at it. The one thing that everybody always tells me is they made a bunch of mistakes early.
Oh yeah, you're going to. You know? That's just in life in general. You're going to make a mistake. The key to it is recognizing that you did and how you going to fix it. Yeah. That's the same way in politics, you know. Yeah. You're not going to be right all the time, and you may be right, but your voter or your people down the street or something may think that you're not. Right. And it goes back to the bad information. Yeah. What advice would you give somebody who's in a startup business or still early in owning their own, you know, trying to make a go of their business in Scottsboro or Jackson County? Well, I don't know. That's perception. A lot of people don't get. When I worked at the oil company, I saw a lot of people start up businesses, gas stations back in the early days, and mechanic shops with gas and all in it, and they go in there with not enough capital. And they try to make a living, and they have to take money from their capital to live on. The next thing you know, they don't have any money to operate their business. You got to have enough capital to operate.
Yeah.
And another thing, you got to get out in the community and let people know who you are.
Right.
That is a big key to it. Just because you open it up don't mean they're going to come to you. You got to go ask them for their business. You build business one at a time, build customers one at a time.
Man, a guy here, it's been a few years ago. He runs or used to, I think he still does, a Porta-John business. And, you know, he would carry around, little $10 gift cards and business cards. And, you know, sometimes he'd have one, sometimes he'd have both, but he'd always have a business card. And, he'd just pull up and he'd say, hey, you know, I'd like to have your business. And I said, man, that takes a lot of courage to get out places you don't know, people you don't know. He said, listen, I'm the guy that's not afraid to stop.
Yeah.
Every time I don't stop, that's one that I'm guaranteed not to get.
Exactly right.
And that's kind of always stuck with me, you know, is that perseverance and just hanging in there, staying committed to the cause. And, you know, when Stacy first came to solid waste, he's very good at picking up on, you know, people's
mannerisms.
Yes, he does. He's very good at it. He saw that I was very overwhelmed, and to his credit, after a few conversations with me, he realized something about me that I didn't even realize about myself. I needed to be positively reinforced. I needed to be. So he started every morning. He would come in, drove me insane for about 2 months. But every morning he'd come in, he'd have some sort of video, some sort of motivational speech or something like that. He'd send me quotes throughout the day, just over and over and over, just, you know, something about working hard and, you know, be the lion, don't be the sheep, you know, that kind of thing, you know. And
that's good. You need it to be positive.
Yeah. And
on a positive note, my wife wanted me to be sure and tell you her daughter went through the surgery today. She had a hole in her heart. So they went through the catheterization process, and it got up there, and it was a bigger hole than they thought it was. But they were able to go in there and fix it.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's doing well.
That's awesome. She told me you'd give me an update, and I appreciate that. That's wonderful. I tell you, those are scary things, man.
Oh, it is. It is.
You know, because I had asked her about, you know, coming on. I was actually going to get her to call and tell an embarrassing story about you, but I didn't figure you'd want me to do that, so.
There's enough of them floating around. Well, let me say that being on Scottsboro City Council, if anybody wants to talk to me anytime, they're free to. Call City Hall and get my number. Give me a call.
Yeah.
If you want to meet somewhere and look at a street or look at something, I'll be glad to. That's what I do. That's part of my job.
Well, there's a pay scale out solid waste for office people. I'd love for you to take a look at.
Be glad to.
Oh, that was another thing that Stacey asked me to tell you. He wanted me to ask about y'all taking a look at the supervisors, and he told me something about that I did not know. He said, you know, like us, we're on a step scale,
right? But
supervisors, the only raises they get, unless it's a voted change, is the across the board raises,
right?
And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised about that.
Well, you know, that's the way it's been for years and years for the city of Scottsboro. You know, a lot of our workers that are on that scale system, you know, they get a 5% increase every year until you max out.
Right.
You might start out low, but if you hang in there for a while, you know, that 5% mounts up year after year.
Right. Some people, like the guys like police and fire that are on a 20-year retirement, I think we've got 14 steps now.
I think so.
So if you start out at the very bottom, when you top out, 6 years, you're going to retire.
Yeah, right. Right.
You know, that it takes when you think about it like that, it takes a long time. I would, and Stacey ain't paying me to say this, but just an issue that we've had, and we're not the only ones having it, was trying to find drivers.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have a certain classification to the commercial driver's license to be able to work certain jobs. If we could just top people out,
Yeah.
That'd be great. But, we interviewed a guy for an open position the other day, 21 years experience driving the same kind of vehicles that we operate in another municipality. He had relocated up here and was looking for a job. And, the way our rules are set up, we could only offer him a certain amount of money, and he had to decline.
Well,
basically had to say, I'll have to change careers. There's no way I can afford to take that kind of cut and pay.
As we said earlier, the pay scales, everybody has moved up. I remember when minimum wage was real low, and, it stayed low.
When I started working, I was 13 years old. I had to get a worker's permit from my mom to work summer jobs.
Yeah.
And boy, I was glad to do it too. I got out of the hay fields.
Yeah.
And, if you ain't, I'm going to tell you, I worked for $3.80 an hour. And that was minimum wage. And boy, I thought I was walking tall cotton, I cashed them $24 paychecks. I was just tickled pink.
Yes, sir. I remember when I quit going to college, I got a job over at Gay Treadmill. It's gone now.
Yeah.
Some of the older folks will remember that. I had an office job. I worked in production control, and I started out at $2.50 an hour. But the day I went to work, the whole mill got a 10-cent an hour raise. Because I'd already been hired, I got a raise the first day on the job. Not many people can say that.
Pudge corrected me too. He sent a message and said that police and fire have 3 less steps than the
that's
others.
Right. I'd forgotten about that. We made that change a couple of years ago.
That just means they start out higher than
The one thing I'll say about the city of Scottsboro, they must be pretty easy to work for because we don't have a lot of turnover. Compared to like the county commission. I was talking to their HR director here a while back, and they needed 9 people scattered around all the different departments. And our biggest turnover is in the police department. But it seems to be statewide in the police department.
Something we've been working towards, I don't even know if he wants me to tell it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Something Stacy's been looking into is non-CDL equipment.
Yeah.
Non-CDL trucks and non-CDL rear loaders. We actually, got a grant not too long ago, and included in that was a rear loader, non-CDL rear loader, so that, if we can't find a qualified driver, it's going to open up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is, for the employees, you don't make as much money.
Mm-hmm.
But for the services, it opens up a brand new employee, pool of applicants. So,
well, this happened when I was with the county. They started giving, like their street department. They don't call it street department, but public works department. They were needing CDL drivers, so they got to having some of their employees practice and train, and if they passed their CDL, they'd get a $500 bonus. Well, what they found was when these people were, if they hadn't been there but a few years, they'd get their $500 bonus and their CDL. They'd go to work somewhere else making more money.
Yeah,
they're beating themselves in the head.
Yeah,
and that's just the monster you face.
It is. I know Stacy probably beat y'all's doors down about it, and I don't have a lot of room to talk about it. I'll be honest with you, it's the best job I ever had, and I'm thankful for it. Many times, though, I've told Stacy, what I do outside of the city, I do for free. I don't get paid for anything else I do. I don't get paid at the church. I don't take a check here. I don't get paid for weddings, funerals. If people want to give me something, that's up to them, but I don't ask for a penny. I don't get paid to do anything I do for Scottsboro, for radio or the PA or any of that. I don't get paid for the chaplain work at North Jackson. Everything that I do outside of the city, I do for free. And the reason I do it now is not to brag on me, but I have so much more peace.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy it, and I have a lot of comfort, self-gratification. You know, Nick Saban talks about that a lot, self-gratification. It makes me feel better knowing that
Well, if you didn't enjoy it, you wouldn't do it.
Exactly. You know, I do things just from the abundance.
And also some people have hobbies that are time consuming, and some of that is hobby-like to you.
Yeah. Especially like this.
Yeah.
The radio stuff that I helped Greg with, you know, for years and years and years. I helped Greg, football, basketball, and some people, I didn't talk very much during football because I did stats for him.
Right.
But I loved doing that because I got to watch the game.
Hell yeah.
I didn't have to think about something to talk about.
Right.
You know, listen to him and Robbie Copenhaver jab on, you know, and this is something that I see that I'm starting to have with some of you guys in the council and other leadership positions too around the city. That camaraderie I had with them, I found out that in the city government, probably that way in the county too, but it's the stuff that happens behind the scenes that I cherish.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of good laughs, and sometimes we're sitting after meetings, we're sitting out in parking lots and just chit-chatting, shooting the breeze, and talking about not really talking shop, just talking about life. And, you know, it kind of brings everything back into the perspective is that I'm a person, you're a person. The people that we serve in our different roles and capacities, they're people. Doing things that you're blessed to be able to do.
Yeah.
For pennies on the dollar or free is
rewarding.
It is rewarding in a different way.
You know, I enjoyed the city council. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have run the second time.
Yeah.
And there's more to it than going to a meeting once a week. You know, Monday night we had 2 meetings. Today I had a meeting at noon, and I had another one at 4:00. So I've been in 4 meetings this week, and next 2 weeks we've got budget hearings. So there's more to it than meets the eye.
Stacy said he enjoyed the conversation, and he's looking forward to butting in on all the other council members' interviews. You know, some people don't know this about him. I actually have a joke about Stacy when he has such a vast knowledge of different aspects of the different types of government. His experience in small business, his experience in people management, efficiency, psychology, even, he has a very unique skill set. And I used to tell him, I said, they just thought they hired a plumber when they hired you. Well, they had no idea you were going to be banging on their doors every single day.
I've got it. I tease him. I've told him I've got a slogan. I won't say it on the air, but I've got a slogan I tease him with every time we get in a crowd of people. And he'll shake his head and he says, if y'all don't laugh at him, he'll go away.
Yeah. I used one of your jabs on him this morning. I said, you know what? Those $10 eggs taste awful good. He gave me a carton of them here a while back, and I've been eating on them a little bit along. Man, you're right. He is spending barrels of gold on us.
He got a chicken house and everything to go with it. That's better than a lot of people's homes, and going and buying expensive feed. And we teach him about them eggs costing $10 a piece and how he puts all his expense in it.
Oh, I have a lot of fun at his expense, and he has a lot of fun at mine too. He's got a good way of getting you back, but I really have enjoyed working with not only with him but with a lot of other people. There's been people that I've had the privilege of getting to know, because of my position, that I wouldn't have got to know,
right,
if I hadn't been in this spot. And
that's the same way with me in the council. I've got to meet a lot of people, and I've worked with 2 mayors, and I've gotten along great with both of them. They've been very supportive of the council, and I just don't have anything negative to say about them.
That's good. We're entering into different times, and we've had this discussion. I'm not going to rehash it, but I always like to ask a few questions, just kind of personal questions. You don't have to answer them, but I think it helps. It always helps me to ask them, and it helps other people to kind of know, where you come from. If Mike Ashburn could only eat one meal for the rest of his life, and that was the only meal he could eat every day, what meal would that be?
I guess it would be breakfast food.
Yep.
Egg, biscuits.
We may be spirit animals.
I could eat a pan of biscuits right now. Homemade
Oh man,
biscuits.
whew. Oh, sawmill gravy, bacon.
I
Lord
used
have
to
mercy.
have a question I'd ask people that I didn't really know to kind of get the conversation started. I said, if you murdered somebody and they was putting you in an electric chair, what would be your last meal?
Yeah.
And it would be just,
Yeah.
you just wouldn't believe the answers that you get.
When I first started doing this, I'd ask questions like, if your worst enemy were to write a book about you, what would be the title of that book?
I don't have an answer to that one.
I know
The
what it would.
Fast and the Furious, I don't know.
If one of your buddies were to write a book about you, I ain't going to name any names, but if he were to write a book, it'd be called "Will You Just Say Yes?" Just don't ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
Just say yes. Oh man, we three people. It can be more if you want it to be. 3 people in your life who have influenced you in a good way.
3 people.
3 people.
Well, my wife and my mother and father.
Anybody else?
Oh, I've got a list of
A list
I've
of-
got some uncles that about half raised me,
Yeah.
and neighbors that I had growing up, and work companions. There's been a lot of positive people in my life, and I appreciate them all.
What advice would you give, anybody 30 years old and below, about paying attention, trying to be more, would you advise them to be more involved in the local government?
Yes, I would. I'm a voting machine technician. Usually in election years, I'm doing the testing of voting machines for the county commission and some of the cities and some labor unions that I do. And I observe on election day a lot of people coming to the polls, and the majority of them are older folks. I'd like to see more young people turn out.
What do you think it's going to take to get younger people to vote?
I don't know. I just don't have the answer to that. It's if more younger people were to run for the public office, I think their friends would turn out, and
That happened with Matthew. You brought Matthew up very early.
Right.
That happened with him. He got out and, he was out registering high school seniors.
Right.
And it worked out well for him. He ended up winning that because of those kids, those young adults turning out to vote. I think it's been my experience that it's harder for young people to break through because older people have the relationships with older people, and older people have the more money.
Yeah.
And the more money you got, the more, obviously, the better your chances are getting out there and, getting
the
things
older
done.
you are, the more people you know.
That too. Yeah.
It just evolves that way. If you're 20 years old, you may not know anybody in your local government. But if you're my age, you know about everybody.
Yeah. I tease my wife a lot. I say I'm going to run for mayor of Hollywood or something like that. I'm not going to, but she'll say, "Oh, you'll be divorced if you do."
Well, my wife told me before I got to be the commission chairman, she said, "I don't want you to go into politics. That's not for you." But after I got in it, she saw how I enjoyed it. She kind of changed her mind on that, because I told her when I was running, I said, people will probably get on Facebook and some of the other social media and say some things that's pretty derogatory about me. I said, the worst thing you can do is answer back. Ignore it. Forget about it.
Right.
Move on. Just go to the politics side.
Absolutely. Well, man, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we close out tonight?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to coming up here and got to tour your church and the surroundings, and glad to hear of all the development that's going on with you up here. And as far as city council goes, anybody needs anything, they can call City Hall. I give them my number. I'll be glad to call them back. Scottsboro is on the right track right now. If you look at all the retail development we've got going on and the prospects for some more coming.
Yeah.
And we've got paving committee going right now, already looking at roads to pave for next year. And we're trying to make some positive impact. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve.
Amen. Well, I appreciate you, Mike. I appreciate you taking time to come up here and be with us. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the conversation.
It has.
Several people have said this, they've learned a lot. It's really informative. And, there's a lot of things about the government, especially the local government, that if you don't know, you just don't know.
Well, if you've never been involved in it, you assume things. I was the same way, and like you said earlier, everybody has a different way of doing things. Mm-hmm. If you go to the county commission and work for them a while, like I did, I was over there a total of 13 and a half years, and then you go over to the city. A lot of it is done different, but both of them are legal.
Right.
And they're doing what they're supposed to do. It's just like two different businesses.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And it's really, it's not a monster, but it's a machine, It really is.
In Scottsboro right now, we've got a well-oiled machine, I think.
Yeah, it takes a lot to make it go, and it takes even more to keep it going.
Yeah.
But we're probably seeing the best times we've seen the last rolling out of the last 10 years or so.
Really. I talked to a local historian a while back, and he said Scottsboro is experiencing more growth right now than it has in the last 25 years.
Yeah. The schools, you brought up schools a minute ago. I've seen a report that came out 2 years ago. It said every year since 1981, the enrollment in our school system had gone down.
Yeah.
And this was the first year since 1981 that it went up, and it didn't just go up. It was 100-something people.
Right.
And, it's things are changing, things are different, and, things are looking up. And it's not just going to help Scottsboro, it's going to help everybody.
It is.
I wish everybody understood it a little bit more. I wished I had understood it a lot earlier. I would have got more involved a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I encourage my children to pay attention, to try to educate yourself. Don't just listen to one side. Go out and get to know people, get to know what they're about. And
I would suggest that anybody that's a little bit interested, especially in Scottsboro City government, you can go on YouTube and watch the council meetings.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come to City Hall on Monday nights, and every other week there's a council meeting, and those other weeks is a work session.
Yeah.
Unless there's a holiday involved in it. And you can go on YouTube, be a couple of days late, but you see the same thing as you'd come in person.
Yeah. I do these live, and, now YouTube has a feature now where you can do it live, and it'll save it to YouTube, and you can go back and watch it. I don't know that Scottsboro will ever adapt that. I've talked to Clint about it a few times. He's kind of overwhelmed right now. He's the only IT guy, that we got. But I have a little bit of experience. I try to help him as much as I can out at solid waste where he don't have to be running out there all the time.
He's a good one. He knows what he's doing.
I'm actually going to have Clint on the program probably out in October.
Yeah.
He's going to come, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff and, cybersecurity and things. Again, he's in the field that people just don't know a whole lot about.
That's one item the city has had to pay some good money to ensure that we don't get hacked.
Yeah.
We have to take classes and pass classes to be on the lookout for certain things that hackers do.
And I get tested at least 4 times a week. I get those emails that company sends out to try to see if I'm stupid enough to click on it or not.
Well, you don't have to be stupid. They're very deceiving.
Yeah,
They've
are.
done their homework.
Yeah, they have done it. I called Clint one day. I said, if you don't get a hold of these people and tell them to quit harassing me, trying to get me to click on these emails. Somebody's gonna get a striping. I'm gonna start at the back corner of City Hall. He laughed. He said, "Come on down, join the line. There's a waiting list."
If anybody wants to know more about the City of Scottsboro, see if there's any job openings, they can go to cityofscottsboro.com.
Yes,
it's got a lot of useful information on it.
It does, and it's got information about every department in the city too.
Right.
Phone numbers, email addresses, all kind of stuff. Really, there's an abundance of information out there now. We got Facebook pages for I think almost every city department. I know we have one. I have to manage it myself, and then the website has different sections out there for the city.
Yeah.
And the county's not too shabby itself as far as information wise. You can find out about anything you need to know out there. But again, Mike, I sure am glad to have you out here. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it has been fun.
A real honor to have you on, and maybe next year we'll get around to do this again.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Been a lot of fun.
I'll have some questions next time.
All right, well, man, I look forward to it. It's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
No.
You was all nervous about it.
I only dreaded it for a week.
You almost said no. You said, "I'll have to think about it." I've been telling everybody, if you watch it, especially people that are out in the future, they're nervous about it. If you'll watch it, you'll see kind of what it's about. And really, it's just an opportunity for folks to get to know, take advantage of the relationships I have with different people in different genres, different occupations and careers and hobbies. And, there's so much to be learned.
Yeah.
It behooves us all as citizens locally in the county and the cities and municipalities. It behooves us all to get to know each other a little bit better. Might actually improve relations a little bit.
It can.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I appreciate it. Again, anytime you want to come back, you just call. And when Pudge is on,
I may just come and be in the audience when he's here.
Well, we'll set you up a chair and let you take part. But if you can't be here when he comes, we can pipe you in.
There you go.
On the phone, and you can put him on the hot seat. We'll let that happen. All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have questions or comments you'd like for us to read, send those to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Again, that's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we'll see you next time.